Thanks everyone for coming today. We've got a great panel for you. The presentation format is going to be a bit of a 7-minute talk, really quick conversation from each of the panelists, and then we've got a bunch of great questions lined up for them afterwards. So Ben's going to kick it off.
Great, thanks so much. Really happy to be here talking about personalized patient-specific implants and instruments. I work for a company called 3D Systems. So at 3D Systems, we are a company that's focused in lots of different markets. We're the original 3D printing company, so invented the technology in the mid-'80s and have deployed the technology across lots of different segments. Currently, we're organized into two main verticals. One's in industrial applications and aerospace and automotive, where 3D printing is used. And then the other half of our business is focused in healthcare, where we deploy our technologies and capabilities in dentistry and medical devices and pharmaceuticals and biotechnology as well. And then of special interest to us, of course, is the ability to leverage these technologies at the point of care, which we'll be talking a lot about today. Not only are we purveyors of 3D printing equipment, we also develop materials that go onto the 3D printers. We develop the software that's used to control the printers or to create devices that go onto the printers or to analyze the devices that come off the printers. So we're a software development company as well. And then we run a consulting service to help our customers leverage and deploy additive manufacturing within their workflows and within their companies. The way we do that is we engage with our customers to understand what their needs are, how additive manufacturing could be used in their company, and then help them to develop those products that would go onto printers and use our know-how and expertise on how to run the printers, how to validate processes, and then how to scale those to larger volumes. And we've done that successfully in applications in healthcare from head to toe. So our company started in working with in dentistry and dental applications. And then we also have a portfolio of oral surgery products for which we are the manufacturer of. And then we also engage with orthopedic companies to develop their products that can be 3D printed from our systems and potentially could be 3D printed from our contract manufacturing facilities, one located in the US and one located in Leuven. Across the board, implants, anatomic models of patient anatomy, and then patient-specific instrumentation as well. The technologies that we offer first start with software. So we've developed software that allows us to interpolate CT scans or radiographic imaging into 3D to be used as a basis for designing instrumentation or implants or to feed another part of the workflow. We also leverage a software called Geomagic Freeform that allows us to design patient-specific instruments and implants. We've partnered with Hatch to develop that ecosystem to streamline the delivery of patient-specific instruments and implants. And then we also developed a software called 3D Expert that allows us to simulate builds, mostly in metals, to apply lattice structures, and to control the printers as well. We have a pretty big portfolio of 3D printing technologies across metals and plastics and lots of different configurations and lots of different materials that we can deliver off of them. Most notably used in the healthcare space, of course, are the powder bed fusion systems, both in nylon materials and in metals. But then we also have other polymeric systems that we leverage to make medical devices. And then there's a wide portfolio of materials that go onto those printers, and the materials have different capabilities and performances to them. So we can typically match an application to the right printer and the right material, and that's a lot of what our consulting capabilities revolve around. In terms of personalized solutions, we, for the last 2 decades now, have been deploying a workflow that takes the radiographic imaging data from a patient, converts it to 3D, and then we work with the surgical team to design the instrumentation or implants that would be used in that surgery. We'll manufacture those devices, and then we'll ship them out to the clinic for deployment and for use in surgery. Products that we have under our own portfolio include our oral surgery line of products for guidance of common procedures in orthognathics and reconstructive surgeries. We have a product in orthopedics as well to guide osteotomies. And then we also work with other companies to develop products for which we're the legal manufacturer of, but they're paired with implant technologies from those companies, like what we have in the foot and ankle space and extremities. And then we've recently cleared a device that helps with the modulation of energy delivered in radiation oncology procedures that we call VSP bolus. But all of these devices are personalized, matched to the patient, use some information and input from the patient, go through our workflow, and a device is at the end of the day delivered to the clinical team. Interestingly, you can use that same workflow and that same manufacturing technology at the point of care. And there's good reasons. There's a lot of complications around it, but there's good reasons that point of care, at least in our opinion, point of care manufacturing of medical devices will continue to expand and grow. But certainly, where we center ourselves on is improve patient outcomes and reduce cost for delivering these types of products into the clinic. And again, we can deploy across our workflows, our software, our hardware capabilities into the hospital. And the way we do that is across several different business models. We can certainly run a managed service within a hospital, and or we can help to transfer the technology to a hospital if the hospital wants to own their own manufacturing capability. We certainly can help the hospital to do that. And we're currently engaged in a public relationship with the VA system in the US to help them establish medical manufacturing capabilities. So again, leveraging our technologies and our established workflows within the VA system, where they will become their own medical device manufacturing company, if you will, serving their own patients and have their own legal registrations with FDA. And so we're helping to consult and help them to establish those capabilities. And that's essentially what's going to feed some of this conversation today in this panel around point of care and personalized implants. So with that, I'll pass it over to Joe to talk about his experiences at HSS.
Thanks very much, Ben. So happy to hear to discuss how personalized patient-specific implants can become the norm. Just by way of disclosure, I do personally receive royalty income from ExactTech, Lima Corporate Ortho Development, and Matisse Medical. And as far as an introduction to my talk, I'm going to start by just giving a brief introduction of Hospital for Special Surgeries, as I think relative to most of the folks that are here at this conference. I'm probably one of the few folks that actually work at a hospital as opposed to a provider. And then another unusual aspect of the hospital is we actually have done a significant amount of manufacturing of implants over time. I wanted to share some of that history, and then as well as explore our new relationship with Lima Corporate. So Hospital for Special Surgery was founded in 1863 as the Hospital for the Relief of the Ruptured and Crippled. So marketing folks got involved in the 60s to fix that name. And HSS is the oldest existing orthopedic hospital in the United States. So HSS today, so we're located on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. From a bed perspective, it's not that many beds, 205 beds, but we do have a ton of ORs. My most recent count is we have 51 ORs at the hospital, and then lots of imaging equipment, 18 MRIs and 2 CTs. Again, the hospital keeps expanding, so this is a rough estimate of the number of surgeons we have, but my last count was 150 orthopedic surgeons. We do around 10,000 hip and knee replacement surgeries per year, with overall total of 37,000 surgeries and almost 500,000 outpatient visits per year. So we've been manufacturing devices at HSS starting in 1976, and this process was started by Al Burstein. And at that time, we were not only designing implants, we were manufacturing them in-house. We purchased CNC equipment. We were registered manufacturer with FDA, and we even did our own packaging. We sent devices out for sterilization. And the drawing here is one of the early examples of a hip stem that we developed for a patient at HSS, I believe in 1977. However, we got out of the manufacturing business in 1996. It was just the cost to manufacture was too high. FDA regulatory requirements were getting more and more demanding, Our insurance expense for providing implants was rising, and potentially most importantly, the general manufacturers of implant systems were making many more modular systems with many more components that were able to suit the needs of a lot of our patients. So our need for developing patient-specific implants at that time was decreasing. However, to this day, we still do design work at HSS, but now we're outsourcing that manufacturing to the major companies in the market for our patients. And over this time, we've designed over 2,800 devices for individual HSS patients. So in somewhat of a back to the future moment, we recently started a 3D printing facility at HSS in partnership with Lima Corporate. And I'll just read the start of the press release. So on July 7th, 2019, HSS and Lima Corporate announced the first 3D printing facility on hospital grounds to address complex custom orthopedic cases. So the facility is now up and running at the hospital. It's a Lima facility, so it's all run through their QA, their engineers, but we do collaborate on the design of the cases, and the devices are now manufactured at HSS. So I'll show you just almost 3 years to the date of the announcement, we implanted our first implant. It's the device that's on your right, the patient's left, of a complex acetabular component for a revision total hip. So this is a case that was manufactured at HSS and implanted at HSS. So we're pretty excited that there were lots of delays due to COVID, but we were finally able to pull it off. So it'll be really exciting to see how this progresses over the next few years. And with that, thank you very much, and I'll turn the mic over to John.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate the opportunity to speak at OMTEC this year. Thank you very much. So I'm with Conformis, and I'm going to talk about how we manufacture truly patient-specific implants. So Conformis was founded in 2004 by an orthopedic radiologist and a software engineer. We're the first company to make truly patient-specific implants, not just jigs, but implants and the instrumentation that goes along with them. First implant was called the iFormer. It was an interpositional device introduced in 2006 and withdrawn in 2010. The rest of the products are all still on the market today. The iUni, which is a partial knee replacement, in 2007. We introduced the iDuo, which is a bicompartmental knee replacement, in 2008. We introduced the first total knee, which we call iTotal, in 2011. We followed that up with a posterior stabilized variant of the iTotal in 2015. And I got to point out, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but both of those total knee systems are in their 5th evolution of development. And we can do this because there's patient-specific and there's no inventory involved with them. And then we came out with a customized total hip system in 2018. We call it Cordera. So each knee replacement is completely customized based on a set of design rules that we have that are all FDA cleared. The actual design manual for a total knee is about 350 pages, but that's the manual. That's kind of like the software manuals. This is all completely automated, and I'm going to show you that a little bit later. Presently, all implant systems are based on a CT image. We will be looking at radiographic, which some of the competitors are doing today, but we're looking at that as well. We have a highly automated design and manufacturing process where it starts with segmentation, the implant design, the iJig design. That's our brand name for the instrumentation, the patient-specific instruments, iJigs. The casting design, and then the CNC programming, all automated. So here's a little bit more detail. So a CT scan, according to the Conformis protocol, is provided. It's assigned a unique serial number. We'll follow that all the way through the manufacturing process. The CT is QA'd for completeness and compliance to the protocol, and rarely it has to get sent back and redone. very rare. If the protocol is followed, the CTs are good. Segmentation of the knee joint is completed. It's exported to iTotalWorks, which is our homegrown automation software, where the femur and the tibial plateau are designed in automation. It's QA'd by a CAD engineer, so there has to be ongoing quality assurance for this. We can't rely completely on the software to do it correctly all the time, because there will be minor variations. Then the implant designs are exported to a batch software package that designs the jigs, completely automated to make the instrumentation for this. So here is what it looks like. I'm just going to give you a little a teaser here. From a solid model built from a segmented CT scan, this is the automation running, designing a femoral component. And it's the only piece that I'm really going to show you. So it's completely built in automation, real time. The implant is done first, the implant is then saved, and it's converted to a casting model where the, where the sprues, gates, and shrinkage are built into the casting model. And then a wax pattern is printed that goes into a traditional investment casting process. So as I said, the wax pattern is printed, goes into a traditional manufacturing process. Tibial plateaus are machined for a forging blank with some standardized features and some patient-specific features to them. The tibial inserts are machined from a direct compression molded poly blank, and the inserts that are completely patient-specific, including the interlock. Every interlock is different for our modular tibial plateau. The iJigs are exported to the Conformis SLS print farm, where we have 28 3D Systems S Pro 60s that are running continuously 24/7. And what we do is we grouped the jigs by serial number, the patient individual serial number, into what we call this print frame. It's like a model airplane kit. It keeps everything together through the manufacturing process, so things don't get separated, and we don't have to spend a lot of time checking serial numbers. Every one of these jigs has got a serial number on it as well. So what are the challenges here? Reimbursement limits the average selling price, which means that profit margin is challenging. The COGS, which is cost of goods sold, it's challenging to do everything. Even in a highly automated system, our costs are substantially higher than a Zimmer or a DePuy or any of the other companies. The CT scan is a requirement. In some cases, that's a challenge. In some cases, it's an advantage because the centers, can offset their cost of owning the relatively expensive equipment. But some insurers will not cover it. It's rare. There are certain insurers that just don't cover a CT scan. And CT scans don't cost what they used to. They're relatively cheap, and so we'll actually cover the cost of a CT scan if the insurer will not. And some customers, not all, but some customers have a shorter scheduling window than our production window is. Our production window is 5 weeks. A lot of our customers are at 6 months out, but there's a lot of customers where they have a 2, 3, 4 week scheduling window for their surgeries, and our model just does not work for those individuals. So that's a challenge to Conformis. And probably the biggest obstacle is that customers just don't see the clinical benefit, despite the numerous peer-reviewed papers that just demonstrate superior results for our implant system. It's just like, they just don't want to believe what it is that's contrary to what they were taught. So what's the future hold? So continued development of automation, including AI to reduce the CAD labor time. We're deep into that. Conformis is moving to a model that is similar to intraocular lenses, where the patient pays for a premium service over a standard of care implant. But if a company is going to do that, the company has to have a standard of care implant as well as a premium service. regulations allow this. They allow for, though, a premium service. They do not allow for charging a patient for a premium product. And of course, additive manufacturing in biomaterials and biocompatible materials, I know that this is ongoing all the time, but it's sooner or later this is going to come into the mainstream for manufacture of patient-specific implants. And tissues and organs, I know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I don't know if anybody up here is going to see that, but you'll probably see tissue, but you won't see organs. But some people in this audience may see additive manufactured organs. I'm fully confident that it will occur. Thank you. Peter?
Well, thank you, John. That was great. And actually, thanks to all three of you. I don't know if you can recognize, we probably have three companies who have the most experience in this space, between HSS, Conformis, and 3D Systems in patient-specific solutions. So this is a great opportunity to kind of dig in and ask some questions. John, obviously, when Conformis started, there was a goal to buck the trend of traditional implant process. You've been in the industry a few years, so help us understand what was a key part of that in making that decision. What's wrong with the stock implant process, and why you guys did what you did?
Well, at the time, the idea was, and it still is today, that for total knee replacement, patient satisfaction is only about 70%. And I think that the reasons for that are very well understood. It's for patient implant sizing. Sizing has gotten better, but it's still not perfect. But much more importantly, I'm convinced that it's not about size, it's about the shape. The shape of the implant matters. And we have published papers that demonstrate 92% patient satisfaction with our implant compared to 70% for an off-the-shelf Zimmer DePuy or whatever it is. And we have a much higher forgotten knee score as well, which means that the patient forgets that they had a surgery done. It's very common in hip surgery for a patient to forget that they even had a hip done. Very common. 92, 95% of patients forget they have a hip. In a knee, though, it's less so. And the reason being is because the shape of the implant is wrong. You have to modify the patient's soft tissues. This is sounding like a medical meeting and not like a manufacturing meeting. But the shape is right. And that's why I think we've got the higher satisfaction. So we were driven by the patient satisfaction and trying to improve that. Long way around to that short answer.
That's perfect. And Joe, from your perspective as a hospital who has to store hundreds, if not thousands of implants at any point in time, what are your challenges with the traditional process?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Peter, that we're in New York City, space is a huge premium. To manage the inventory of these massive implant systems, and as John mentioned, the systems are getting better from a fit perspective, but in order to do that now, the system that used to have 6 sizes now has 20 sizes. So imagine the inventory, not just the implants, but the instrumentation. It's incredibly burdensome. So if you could come up with a one implant for a patient, that would really improve that inventory management problem that the hospital faces. Not to mention, as you get more implants, there's a chance of a mistake happening. I've heard this, where a patient wanted the size 3, or the surgeon wanted a size 3 implant. Oops, not on the shelf. Now what? Got to call down to another hospital and pray that they have one to ship it to the hospital while the patient's on the table. So not a good day in the OR.
No, for sure. And Ben, you guys service both sides of that, both from the personal side as well as the production, especially with a lot of spine products. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, from our perspective, we believe that personalized instrumentation and implants will become the norm across many different surgical specialties. Right now, we see a lot of success in dentistry, where personalized instruments and implants have been used for decades. Same thing in oral surgery too, where we're able to leverage the workflow that is really software heavy, and then use that as an input to a manufacturing system to deliver just what that particular surgery needs, just when that surgery is going to happen. And that's the goal and what we're aiming for. There's a lot of steps to get there. and we continue to evolve the technology across software and printers and materials to get there. But we do believe that's going to penetrate more into common areas in orthopedics for large joints as well eventually.
Great. And all of your presentations discussed steps towards the future, like the next things you're thinking about and what you're thinking about and why. So what changes have to happen in manufacturing and the supply chain levels to really scale personalized implants? Obviously, John, you guys are doing tens of thousands of cases a year. Is that a good?
Yes.
So it's how do you get to 100? How do you get to 1 million cases a year? Have you guys thought about that? What steps are you taking?
Oh yeah, and it's a huge challenge. I mean, we're investing heavily in AI to further automate, where we're going to take processes that take 2 hours down to 2 minutes, completely automated. Like this, for instance, the segmentation. The longest lead time we have is the casting. It's about 10 days, and I think Ben could solve the problem for us.
Yeah.
Conformis actually has a 510K clearance for total knee. We got it in 2013, but we never applied it because actually printing the femur and then finishing it costs more money than casting it and grinding it and polishing it. And it's because of the support structures that are required. So we talked about this before this meeting. I mean, it will occur. The question is when. Can we literally print a near net knee femur with the proper mechanical properties and wear properties that we need, and do it in 2 hours and not, I think we were in like a 24-hour cycle or so. Does that sound right? I mean, so it will all come. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. So Ben, how are you guys working on that since he just asked?
Yeah, so improvement to technology is certainly somewhere where we focus in. So making printers more productive, making it cheaper to be able to answer that scale problem. So when we're talking about femoral components for a total knee, those are pretty big parts to go onto a 3D printer. And they have a lot of orientation considerations as well. So the ability to print lots of those off of one machine in a cost-effective manner is where we need to go as an industry and what we are working on. So printers that are faster, maybe they have more lasers, maybe they have better flow characteristics to them, allow you to print high-quality parts in a more productive and cost-effective manner is certainly what we're working on. Not quite there to open up John's issue for cobalt chrome, but something that our application engineers work on, and certainly our R&D group works on the printer side. Another big component of this for scalability is exactly what John was talking about too, which is the software workflow. So making that more automated, making that fast, reducing the amount of labor that's required to go from a CT scan input in this case to a prosthesis that goes into surgery. That's where a lot of cost savings can be attained in this workflow, and something that we're working on as well in order to open it up. And then, the final component for me is that I don't really see, say, one centralized manufacturing place for all of these types of components. I see a little bit more of a spread of manufacturing capabilities geographically that have 3D print capabilities, have the workflow capabilities that hospitals like HSS can rely on in order to deliver those instruments and implants in a time-efficient type of manner. So those are kind of the three different areas of technology and deployment that I see happening.
Joe, I'd love to get your thoughts on how surgeons are thinking about personalized surgery today. You're obviously in touch with more docs than most, you have 150 on staff. So at HSS, in the keynote earlier, they brought up a great point where surgeons want to have the backups of the backups of the backups. How are your surgeons adopting to that world of hey, this is what's necessary for the case, maybe a little bit extra? How are you guys adopting and adapting to that world?
Yeah, that's a fascinating topic because, from the surgeon perspective, they want everything at the OR for any potential eventuality, because it's no sweat off their backs for the reps to be carrying 10 trays of things. That's in the background for them. So there's no real incentive for them to necessarily want to limit that inventory. The hospital, though, on the other hand, does have some incentives so that they may push the surgeons, and they're trying to get the surgeons to do more pre-planning so they limit the amount of devices that are put into the OR. But I think until the model changes in some way that actually the surgeons are incentivized to not have to bring in so many different devices for a case, I don't think it's going to change, at least not easily.
Yeah.
Peter, can I comment on that as well?
Yeah, please.
I didn't list it, but that's an obstacle for conformists as well, not having the options. But here's the reality. We've done probably at least 150,000 knee replacements since 2008. I can count on my hands and toes how many times a surgeon had to bail in the surgery and go to the alternate. So from 150,000 cases, maybe 20 times they had to abandon the case for various reasons. So statistically, it's super low.
There was a comment made. So there's a comment made this morning in the keynote about a surgeon's trust of a personalized instrument or implant. And it's a common, or at least what we have seen both in dentistry and oral surgery, where as surgeons become more used to using these personalized instruments and implants for their patients, they understand that it's going to work for their patient. And then that reduces the need for all of the additional sets that doesn't cause them any heartache, but causes the rest of us a lot of heartache. But that trust factor takes time. And we have seen it successful in dentistry and oral surgery, and I suspect that we'll see it successful in orthopedics as well.
Yeah, I think Eric Major said, it always takes longer than we think it's going to take this morning at the keynote. And that was a great insight. It's like I remember when I first started in the industry, people said, oh, biologics will change and eliminate all of our jobs. And I was much younger. It's made progress, but it hasn't happened yet. But what we have seen is consumers really interested in robots. We have seen them interested in personalized medicine. What other factors make this more mainstream? What else helps us get there? So John, you've been doing it a while. Ben, you've been doing this as well from even before 3D Systems. You were with Medical Modeling, which is the company they had acquired.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, guys.
Yeah, from my perspective, at least, it's about the data. And you talked a little bit about the data around this. It's the lack of large randomized clinical studies that show personalized instruments and implants use versus standard of care in order to convince the clinical teams to use these types of tools, to convince the payers to pay on them. It's that lack of data that I think is one big hurdle that we need to address. And then there are certainly hurdles on the regulatory front too, but those hurdles I think are easily confronted and solved. But it's that large randomized data sets that are still lacking.
So conformist has the data, right? And we have over 50 peer-reviewed published papers on outcomes. And we're still a 1% player in the knee replacement market. And so why is that? Well, orthopedics is a lot like politics. People only believe in what they believe in, and they're not willing to look at something else. I had dinner with the chief of orthopedics at the Brigham 2 years ago, or I think it was about 2 years ago. We had just had a published paper with 20,000 implants in the published paper. And chairman of orthopedics said, yeah, but I don't believe that. A peer-reviewed paper. So this is a Harvard professor. He goes, the data's there, but no, I don't believe it. So something has to change structurally. We have a term inside that I'm going to use, and I wouldn't use it at a medical meeting, but I'll use it here. We call it the academic cartel. The surgeons that control the podium are all highly paid by the big companies. And they control the message. And if they don't believe in your message, they're not going to let your surgeons on the podium. And so your message is limited to its audience. That's a reality. If you ever want to look at open payments and see how much some of these guys are getting paid, it'll blow you away. So, I mean, access to the podium is the game, and that's gonna and you know, none of the big companies are gonna do this innovation. They're gonna buy it, right? And once one of the big companies buys it, then it will change.
Yep.
But the small companies are going to continue to struggle with patient-specific implants until one of the big guys decides that, yeah, we need to own this because it does work. And I'm telling you, it does work.
It's a great perspective because if you look at the podium in the smaller specialties like foot and ankle and shoulder, there has been much more rapid adoption in those areas over the past decade versus hips and knees. So I could see that where they have that access in the smaller joints and the extremities. It's an interesting perspective. So, you know, obviously you're all working on different projects to advance artificial intelligence, internal manufacturing with, you know, partnerships, things like that. What are the key cost drivers for these projects? What are your concerns on getting there and achieving those things? I'll open that to all of you.
I mean, cost matters. I mean, if you can't control the cost, you're not going to make money at it. Conformis has struggled to get competitive in terms of cost. And the solution to that is going to be more automation, you know, quicker turnaround times. It's just, that's the only way it's going to come. You got to, unfortunately, if you're going to bring the cost of this down, you have to reduce to a bare minimum human intervention. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah, just from a hospital's perspective, you know, and the payers, you know, there's almost 1 million total knee replacements that are going in the United States. It's a huge hit to the Medicare system. So cost is always going to be a big part of this. So you increase that unit cost, it really changes the stakes. So that definitely probably, I think, more than regulatory, it's cost. We see that all the time. So it is a challenge to innovate, and unless, you know, a 10% improvement is probably not enough. You got to show such dramatic improvements that are probably impossible incrementally. It's a real challenge to innovate in orthopedics. It's been that way forever.
I mean, possibly what we're calling the Platinum Service Program, where the patient can pay for the upgrade, that might change the model. But that's very, very new. We've only been doing that since January, and we'll see. That might change it. It's exactly the same thing that happens in intraocular lenses. You can get the standard of care, but if you want to get sight correction, the patient has to pay for it, and it's not cheap. I did it myself in 2018. I paid $3,500 to get distant sight corrected from my cataracts.
Yeah, and then from our perspective, of course, we're focused on innovation and the technologies that are used to help reduce costs. And then we're also focused on, you know, potential deployment of these tools at hospitals too, with the intent to reduce costs for the hospital or the ASC, where these types of technologies can be used and try to cut out some of the additional players in that space.
Yeah, so for a few years now, I guess maybe 6 years now, we've been developing artificial intelligence. We started much longer before that. It was a lot harder 10 years ago than it was 5 years ago, just based on the speed of GPUs and processors and things like that. So through that time, we've looked at lots of different data. We focus on radiographic data, and now we're expanding into other areas of structured and unstructured data in the EMR. Joe, what are you guys doing with AI, and what are your big initiatives?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm not involved in AI, but there's lots of projects around the hospital looking at one that was just presented last week was on knee phenotyping. So different patients have different anatomy, and that anatomy may affect the implant choice or the implant alignment. So if you, and to identify that for every patient's a challenge. The AI can do that in seconds as opposed to a surgeon doing it in minutes. So that's an area that we're looking at. A lot of, you know, evaluation of radiographs in general via AI is an area of interest for us.
Ben?
Yeah, from our point of view, we leverage deep learning, machine learning, artificial intelligence capabilities across lots of different aspects of the workflow. So certainly in segmentation of CT scans, where we have a cleared product, software product to do that, where we used to spend a couple hours of segmentation time and have reduced that down to a couple of minutes. And so, that's one area where we've deployed AI. A second area is where we create these designs based off of patient contours, but we can leverage software packages and AI to help do that in a more automated fashion as well. And then on the printing technologies itself, we leverage AI and recently acquired a company called Octon to use AI to control our printer fleets. So controlling and understanding when printers will go down for maintenance, understanding how builds are created to go onto the printers, automatically placing parts on the printers in the correct orientation with the correct support structures, are all different ways that we are leveraging AI. And the name of the game there, of course, is to reduce the amount of labor and hence the cost that goes into these types of products.
And John?
Yeah, well, AI will be the solution for a lot of things in medicine. In early 2023, Conformis will introduce complete AI segmentation. It's going to take it from 2 hours to 2 minutes. And for our off-the-shelf knee, we will be introducing what we call Best Fit, which is an AI-driven selection of the right implant for an individual patient. Completely, it's kind of our own software right now, but we're going to convert that to complete AI-driven software, and it'll make that process virtual and very quick.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. And where are the other opportunities? So we've talked about knees, we've talked about craniomaxillofacial. A few of you mentioned some things in your talks. Last week, 3D Systems announced some really interesting news on bioprinted organs. Where else can this go, even beyond orthopedics?
Yeah, I'll take that one first. And last week we had a great presence at a conference and showcase of a bioprinted organ, in this case a lung. That's a project that we've been working on for a bit of time now with a partner called United Therapeutics, where you can print collagen structures and then put them into bioreactors and create artificial tissues that can be implanted into humans. And that's where we certainly see this going in a further out future, hopefully quicker than what the keynote speakers talked about this morning. Everything does take longer, but we're pretty close and have some really good successes there in that program that we're really excited about. And that's another great case for a lot of that manufacturing capability is going to have to be deployed in a hospital situation where you have biologic inputs from the patients. So, hence you'd have to have that capability close to the point of care. So we really see, again, point of care expanding out. That's a great opportunity. And I think it's a great opportunity in orthopedic space as well. And then certainly the bioprinting and tissue engineering capability, I think, will come along with it.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak outside of ortho, but outside of joint replacements, there's been lots of talk about soft tissue replacement, like cartilage. But that's been discussed since I've been in the business for 30 years, and the advances there have been very slow, unfortunately. So I think, the folks that are making metal and plastic parts, I think it's still a good business for the foreseeable future.
Agreed. John, so you guys have ventured into hip recently, a couple years ago, not that recent anymore, but what else do you think is the next step for Conformis?
I mean, obviously spine it has huge potential. Shoulder replacement is very applicable. The smaller joints, there's not much business there. I mean, you got to look at where the dollars, because bringing a product to market is expensive. So hips number 2, shoulders number 3, spine's probably close to what hip is. So there's going to be huge opportunity in spine. But tissue, that's the new frontier. Additive manufactured tissue, as I said earlier.
And probably to wrap it up, let's chat a bit about regulatory. So a lot of people out there, a lot of us have dealt with the changes in regulatory bodies understanding what a personalized implant is and how it should be developed and how it should be manufactured. What are your experiences over the past few years in particular that have the evolution of not only the FDA, but of what's going on with the notified bodies in Europe?
So, well, as it turns out, as we go forward, the FDA is going to be the easy part. In the mid-90s, the FDA got difficult, and we all went to Europe to do product evaluations. And then it slowly changed. But now the EU is dropping some regulations on us that will cause a lot of companies to pull out of Europe. It's overly burdensome. It's just unrealistic. Conformis has got the FDA, and that's not right. We know how to work with the FDA and get stuff through very quickly. We get a lot of 30-day clearances on stuff. Any new product is going to take 90 days, but they're all class 2 in the US, relatively easy. Europe just for med device is going to become incredibly challenging, where filings are going to go from $30,000 or $40,000 to several $100,000 just for the notified body fees. And that's per product. So I think they're going to be cutting their own nose off. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for us, we have also not had any issues with the FDA. For a lot of the patient-specific cases that we're doing, we're using the compassionate use pathway, where it requires a second surgeon to agree that the plan makes sense. There's no other commercial device that's available that would solve the patient's problem. You need IRB approval, and then it goes to FDA for review, and they're clearing those cases in a matter of weeks, so it's really not affecting our timelines, and they've been great to work with. So I can't speak to Europe. We don't work, all the design work I do is for cases at HSS, so the US has been good.
From a 3D Systems perspective, we cleared a device in 2011 that was a personalized device in the craniomaxillofacial space. And what we did then versus what we do now for more recent clearances is quite a bit different. So the regulator know-how certainly has increased over that time, and really all for the better. Regulators are now asking the right questions around the data that you present to them, making sure it's robust and that those products that are released in the market are safe for patients. So it's changed quite a bit in the US, and then certainly the issues that we're talking about in terms of the European transition are certainly affecting these types of personalized products, which are more niche products today anyway. And so the added cost to go through MDR certification of products is difficult and will kill a lot of innovation in the European theater. And then, it also noted, and rightly so this morning in the keynote, is that regulations around data privacy and how, say, imaging data or patient inputs are getting transferred to teams, in industry in order to do these types of workups that we do, and then deploying a product back out to the clinical team, has a lot of regulation implicated in it as well, and certainly a lot more scrutiny. More recently, with even a webinar yesterday from FDA on cybersecurity and how that data gets transferred and ensuring that we're protecting patient information. And so that's another aspect of regulatory, although not affiliated with FDA, that's going to become quite important for personalized implants. And we'll have to solve those problems and create standards around them that can be complied to in order for patient-specific implants and instruments to become more norm.
No, totally agree. It's a critical part of the process. We have to make sure that the patient data is protected, that the device data is protected as well, everything. I really appreciate all of your time today. If you guys have any questions for us, happy to entertain those, but thank you all for coming.